Folks, today I'm gonna show you how to defeat the infamous Dragondorf Sicilian, an opening that can often be found at the intermediate level, and it can be pretty tricky. Yeah, black often leaves his king in the center, leading to uncompromising play. Now, I actually hadn't faced this opening too many times in my entire chess career, but in my last 8 games I faced this opening 2 times, one time even against an international master, so naturally I thought I'd show you guys how I won both games, and how to generally just get a good game against this opening, as it's pretty tricky. So, let's get straight into it. The Dragondorf defense starts after the moves e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, takes, knight f6, knight c3, and now 2 options. Yeah, 2 ways to get into this opening with the white pieces. First of all, if your opponent plays a6 and you play bishop e3 or pawn to f3 and he plays g6, that is the Dragondorf defense. Because, well, first he plays the Najdorf and then he plays g6, also making a sort of dragon. Both of those together are called the Dragondorf. Now naturally the other way to get this would be to start with the dragon, and then after bishop e3 to play the move a6. This is also the Dragondorf defense, and this is what we'll be focusing on in this video. Now my opponent played g6, and I played bishop g7. f3, a6, the Dragondorf defense, queen d2, and now there's a couple of options. Now I'm going to show you guys this step by step, so you guys get a very clear picture of what to play against each and every move. Now first of all, this is a key position, because here black really only has one good move. It is the move h5. Now this move looks stupid, but I'm going to explain you exactly why. First of all, if he plays knight bd7, which is usual, he gets hit with the move g4. And now this knight on f6 is feeling a little bit cramped, and g5 is gonna come. This knight will have to go to the edge. The d5 square will get available for the other light squared pieces, and white will be much better. So basically he has to play h5 to prevent this g4 move. And additionally, he also prevents any bishop h6. So here, for example, bishop h6. He also prevents this move. So that's why they play h5 here, and I faced this in both of the games. So this is really the only move. Now here you have a couple of options, following both long castle, bishop c4, h3, bishop e2, but there's only 2 real moves, and I'll show you guys just one to keep it very simple. Now those moves are bishop c4 and long castle. Now the reason I'm not going to recommend long castle, which is maybe more logical, is that after this move b5, this bishop on f1 is your only piece that can't really, get out to the nice b3 square like it did in both of my games. And I think getting the bishop to b3 is much more natural than whatever this approach is for white. That's why I'm recommending the move bishop c4 in the spirit of the Sozin attack and also Fischer's attack in the Najdorf defense. Now after bishop c4, the idea is just to put the bishop on b3 and keep an eye on f7, so that when your opponent castles, you'll play bishop h6 and this queen has some potential with the g6 pawn being pinned. After bishop c4, your opponent has 2 main moves, and we'll cover them both. So first of all, queen c7 was played against me by a 2150 rated player. I played bishop b3, my opponent played knight to bd7, the idea being that he can put the knight on c4, or he can try to take my bishop on b3. Now I played long castle, we got b5, and now I played a mistake. Yeah, I played a mistake. That's not really nice English. But anyways, in this position, there's one great move for white. So if you want to take your time, do go ahead. But here I made a grave mistake in playing the move rook e1, which for sure keeps white's advantage, but I missed a tactical resource. You see, I could have won the game already against a 2150 rated player in just 11 moves. Yeah, I could play this move knight to d5. Now here, after knight takes d5, you see, the idea is not to play bishop takes d5, attacking the rook. Because after bishop b7, all the pieces get traded and, black has even equalized already. You get some prospects on the queen side, has a nice bishop, can castle. This is not what I mean. Guys. After knight takes d5, you can play knight takes b5, attacking the queen. Now, when he takes back, you play queen takes d5, attacking a8 and f7. And now you see what I'm getting at. The opponent is forced to castle, and after queen takes a8, white is already winning pretty effortlessly, in fact. Now, although I won my game after playing rook e1 with nice maneuvers and some pretty, you know, sort of foundationally good play, of course, if you have the chance, you should play the immediately striking move. So yeah, knight d5 was the move. Now let's keep going. Now I also want to mention that if your opponent does not play knight bd7 followed by b5, which we just saw, you know, countered by knight d5 and knight takes b5, that nice tactic. Let's say your opponent plays castles. We have to get some fundamental things of this position through first. Now, the reason they don't do this is because this king is just super weak. Yeah, you have many attacking resources with the engine suggesting moves like g4 already. That's very wild, but generally you can play long castles, and when your opponent plays something like knight bd7, you can play g4, he's gonna take, and basically you can also play h4. And you just crash through, you open all the lines, you know, you just rip the position open, leaving this king on g8 entirely naked. Now, also bishop h6 is gonna come, queen g5, queen takes g6. This position is positionally winning for the white pieces already. So they cannot castle. It's just not gonna happen. Additionally, if you want to play it slower, you know, here, for example, the move h3 also leads to an almost winning advantage to white. So it's not that only g4 is the winning move or anything. It's just the best move. Now, after bishop b3, he is basically forced to play knight bd7 and enter the variation we just saw. So let's say he plays knight c6 instead. Well, here again you can long castle, follow it up by h3 and g4, and you'll get a super fantastic position with all your pieces developed, you know, great attacking prospects in no less than 11 moves. So let's look at the main line. After this move bishop c4, we just saw queen c7, and now we're gonna look at a different move. And that move would be knight b to d7. Yeah, the opponent refrains from putting his queen on c7, which is a bit of a time-wasting move, as of course my bishop wants to go to b3 anyway, as it'll get hit by, you know, either knight b6 or knight e5, or even b5 in the future. So after knight bd7, we play long castle. We just finished up that development. Now that we've gotten out our beautiful bishop on c4 as well, basically nothing can go wrong. Now, I'm gonna show you guys a couple of lines, my game against the 2400 rated player, and we're just gonna see exactly how white converts his advantage in many of these positions. Now, the first line we're gonna look at is not what happened in my game, but the sort of best line of the computer, so you immediately know how to counter that. And that would be the move b5. Simply attacking the bishop. After b5, you have a couple of options. You know, of course you can play bishop b3 and enjoy your advantage. And of course I would recommend this if there wasn't something even better. But here you can play bishop to d5, attacking the rook in the corner. Now, if you place either rook b8 or rook a7, you guys can see that knight c6 attacks both the queen and the rook, so that's obvious. Instead, he's forced to take the bishop. Now, you guys may go, why would I give up my beautiful bishop? Didn't you just say that this bishop on b3 is looking at g8, facilitates, you know, bishop h6, queen g5, h3, g4, all of that stuff? And to that I say, you're right. It does. But after playing bishop d5, knight takes, we shouldn't look at what we've lost. Instead, we should look at the position we have. And although it's true that black has the bishop pair, in this position something else is at play. You see, the e7 pawn is a real big target. First of all, if he castles, you just play knight c6, attacking both the queen and the pawn, immediately winning the game. Yeah, you can just take e7 next move and you'll easily win. So he has to play bishop b7, attacking the knight, trying to capture that knight. Now, here if you play a move like king b1, you're still better, but this is not the idea, and this is not why we gave up that bishop. Instead, the reason we gave up that bishop is because we want to play bishop g5, attacking the e7 pawn. And now you guys can see that this is a real weakness, like I said. First of all, if you play knight f6, you simply capture, ruining the pawn structure. This pawn on d6 here is quite a weakness after you move your knight to a square like b3, and you basically immediately win the game. So he has to play bishop takes d5, taking off that strong knight, targeting the e7 pawn. Now you play e takes d5, and now it all becomes clear. Ladies and gentlemen, the pawn on e7 is a backwards pawn. It's clear that this pawn is very weak, and that white will enjoy a big advantage. Now, one more thing is important here, and that is that after the move knight to e5, you have one great resource, because you may be like, well, he's gonna put his knight on c4, and then he can play queen a5, immediately getting some counterplay. This bishop is looking pretty strong. Is this really as bad as you're making it out to be? And to that I say, prophylaxis, pawn to b3. We take away the c4 square from the knight, and although we weaken some dark squares around the king here, there's really no way for black to attack those squares, because this bishop is obviously blocked by both the knight and, well, the other knight, and this queen cannot come to a5 because then you would take it. There's also no way to come to, let's say, c3, and all the remaining factors in this position is just this pawn on e7 that is very weak and white's superior development. So following play would be rook e1, pawn to f4, pawn to f5, weak king, weak pawn, weak everything, white's much better. That's basically it. So yeah, after b3, you're gonna enjoy a large advantage and you shouldn't worry too much about it. Now let's look at another move. So now that we've seen that after 10, pawn to b5, bishop d5 leads to a great advantage for white, following knight takes d5 and bishop g5, we can kind of see why this opening isn't as popular at the top level. We can see that there's a very straightforward way to gain an advantage if white knows what he's doing. Now, I wouldn't include this in the video if my opponent hadn't played it against me. You see, he played a move that I've never seen before in my entire life. He played the move knight to b6, immediately attacking the bishop. Now this move looks ridiculous, and it is also ridiculous, and I still don't really understand it, but I still want to show you guys the point and how I immediately just punish this. Now I played bishop b3, and my opponent decided to play bishop d7. Now the idea of knight b6 was that he wants to play rook c8, followed by knight to c4, trading his knight for my good bishop, and maybe b5, b4. Now, I have two commentaries on this move. First of all, if I just play the standard move h3, we can see that after rook c8, g4. Knight c4 takes, g5, knight h7. White is much better, because I have more space. I can play f4, f5, but this is not the reason that this move is so horrible. It's, of course, a very bad position for black, and I take white any day, but I played something even stronger than the normal h3. And I would suggest you guys pause the video here to get the best experience, try to figure out how white sort of immediately wins the game. Now the best move in this position is actually queen to f2. You see, I played this move, and I'm lining up my bishop and my queen to the knight on b6. Now, this may not seem like such a big issue at first, but really, what are you gonna do with black? Let's say you castle. Well, then I just play knight f5, attacking this knight on b6, and after you take, you're positionally losing, because this king on g8 is just super weak, and I've got my great bishop. So he cannot castle. What will he do instead? I was looking at this line, which is queen c7 during the game, and here I figured out two winning lines for white, and I'm gonna put it on you to find just one of them. So pause the video, time's up. Here the two continuations are the following, and I'll show you guys what I was gonna play. So I was gonna play knight f5, attacking this bishop, forcing him to take, bishop takes b6, again the king on e8 is super weak, and white wins the game. Now I also saw this just very fun variation, and it is in fact confirmed by the engines to also be winning, so let's have a look. It's knight e6, attacking the queen, and after f takes e6, bishop takes b6, queen c8, e5, takes, he gets the triple stack, you play queen to g3, attacking both the pawns, he plays king f7, and now not queen takes e5, allowing knight d5, followed by knight takes c3, that would be much better for black. Here you could just play the move rook e1. Now, during the game I actually missed this queen takes e5, knight d5 resource, and I really didn't sort of like the fact that, okay, of course all his pieces look bad, but he can still sort of dream about trading some pieces, and here he in fact had knight d5, but like let's say I play rook e1, he can still, you know, activate some pieces. Whereas in the knight f5 line here, after g takes, bishop takes b6, white is really clearly winning. So this is also the best line according to the engine, so kudos to you if you spotted this. Although it's not that hard, but yeah, it's nice. A nice clean way to win the game. Basically queen c7 loses, so what should he play? My opponent played knight to c8, and of course the point of white's play is clear. I've gotten all of his pieces on the back rank, and now I'm gonna cramp his position. I'm gonna attack it, grab more space. Since I've really developed all of my pieces. So you guys can see how this sort of very principled play leads to an immediately winning position in just 12 moves against even a 2400 rated player. So yeah, queen f2, knight c8, and I just played the pawn to h3. Now here I just want to play g4, g5, removing this knight from f6, allowing knight d5, and also f4 and f5. Now let's see how this played out in practice. Queen c7, and I played g4. My opponent plays bishop c6, I played g5, all according to the plan, knight d7, f4, and now you guys can see how strong that bishop is on b3. This bishop I was talking about all the way at the start, when I told you guys not to play long castle, but bishop b3 instead. That was for this reason. You see, you include every single piece into the attack, and I know I keep repeating myself, but I do that also to emphasize this point. This bishop is so important in this attack because it attacks the f7 square, and you guys can see that after f5 takes g6, I'll get queen f7 check, ultimately winning the game. Now the rest of this game is actually just me completely crushing my opponent. So I played f5, sacrificing the pawn on e4, because if he takes, I can play bishop takes f7 check, of course a nice sacrifice, and after king takes f7, takes g6, I get in on f7, if he takes, this would be a checkmate, and if he moves, I get in. With knight e6 also, it's completely winning, it's +6, we don't have to go over this. So he instead takes my bishop. And he does take that bishop simply because it's the strong attacking piece that it was. But now we've exchanged one attacker for one defender, which is generally good for the attacking side because he has less defenders. Yeah, it's really not rocket science. So, okay, I play a takes b3, we get bishop to e5, simply preventing the move f6, because then this bishop is boxed in. Bishop e5 takes g6, takes rook f1, and now I get into f7. And now there's one more important thing about this game that hasn't so much to do with the opening, but with technique. And I also want to give you guys a way to convert these positions, and it's not really specific to this position, as this is obviously just a random game, but I want to show you guys how technique can really influence a game and how I just won so quickly. Because many of you would maybe win this game, but it would take 60 moves. Now I'm going to show you how to win just immediately. So he plays queen a5, and now realizing that my position is so good, I don't really play any moves like queen f7 or knight e6. I don't infiltrate quite yet. You see, I realized that all of his pieces are on the back rank, and that when I play the move king b1, simply preventing his ID, queen a1, he cannot develop this knight. Because if he plays knight b6, I can taking his knight on b6. So basically he cannot develop any pieces, he has to play king d7, and now I play queen f7. Now here I just attack this pawn, of course, as very logical, and he plays king c7. Now here again, I have a couple of options, and I played a very maybe unnatural move to most of you, but I think it's the best move in this position, and that move is knight to d5 check. Now why don't I just take this pawn? The reason that I don't take that pawn is because then he can play knight to b6 and maybe get some sort of glimmer of counterplay. Now in fact the engine sees that you can play bishop d2, trapping the queen, but of course over the board I don't want to get into any of such complications. I just play knight d5, trading his last good piece, apart from the bishop on e5. So yeah, I attack the pawn on e7, so he's forced to take, and now he's got only left one good piece on the entire board, and it's that bishop on e5, and I'm gonna trade it as well. So we get king b8, knight e6, queen b5, I take the pawn finally, a5, queen d3, I'm going through this very quickly. Bishop d4. So basically I took the pawn because he had wasted a lot of time because I just played such straightforward moves. Now here, again, I can play a bucket of moves. I can play g7, you know, probably even just a completely waste of a move like rook f7 would still win. But the idea of bishop d4 is that I'm trading his last good piece. And after this bishop is traded, it really becomes very easy. So he played a takes b3, c takes b3, rook g8, g7. Yeah, the computer calls this an inaccuracy because he can still sacrifice that bishop, but of course you guys shouldn't take this too seriously. So bishop takes d4 happened, queen takes, and rook f8, queen g6, queen d3, and now I threaten to trade the queens. So, okay, of course he sacrifices the rook, takes, and now just one more good move, and that's queen f5. After which my opponent resigned the game as there was really absolutely nothing left to be done, because the c8 knight is simply hanging. And there's no way for him to guard it, because if you play queen c7, then I play rook c1, check, and I pick up the knight. Now that we've gone over both a game and a couple of lines in the Dragondorf Sicilian defense, I hope you guys have a better understanding of this opening. And if you did learn something, do check out also my other tutorials, you know, on how to punish early queen attacks or how to punish the England gambit. And I'll catch y'all mostly in the next video. Peace.